but we'll see what Les says.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to Les Bowen right now, joining us on the show. He joins us here. Les Bowen, welcome into the show, man. You got to adjust that camera up just a little bit for us, Les, but you look good, my friend. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday edition of Birds 365. How you doing, Les?
I'm doing well, Xander. How are you guys?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm having to use my phone for this right now. For some reason, my laptop's camera has stopped working, and I don't really know a lot about these things. But
you know, my fix for that, Les, is just Control-Alt-Delete and hope it works.
Yeah, Control-Alt-Delete, restart it 4 or 5 times until it starts to.
Then I got to get the IT guy involved. You never want that. But
that's right. Which in my case would mean texting my son.
Yeah, the younger people have a better feel for it than we do. But you probably heard what I was saying about NFL practice. Yeah, I hear a lot from fans. I'm sure you have. They're jealous of us. I don't think they'd be that jealous of us if they had to do it every day. It's not as exciting. What is your take on NFL practices?
Watching practice, we used to be able to do a lot more of it than we do now.
Yeah, well,
there's that, but. Yeah, it's generally you spend as a reporter, you're basically out there to figure out who's not practicing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That as far as watching them do these little drills and things, it doesn't. I maybe sometimes fans think that they're actually like running into each other and sacking the quarterback and stuff like. And they're obviously not doing any of those things almost all the time. They don't ever sack the quarterback. They do occasionally have a padded practice, but it's incredibly rare. These spring things are just what they're trying to do now, as you guys know, is just teach these rookies where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
When they call out a certain sequence of numbers, okay, you're standing right here, which is why so many veterans skip this. Because it has no value for them whatsoever. They could maybe be helpful in telling the kid, hey, no, over there. But other than that, this is really it's almost like multiplication tables in school or something. It's very rudimentary, very. You just don't see. You're not going to like, oh wow, watch that guy. Especially if he's like a lineman or something, because they're not doing anything.
Offensive line. I don't even look at the offensive lineman in the spring, guys. It's like a 7-on-7 passing camp for me.
Right.
I'm like, well, maybe I could. And even last year, I thought it was hilarious because they would just send Saquon out to sort of wide and have him stand at the line of scrimmage and basically, fake he was going to catch the football. They probably did that 15 times last year. And I'm like, well, this is it. This is the great Saquon Barkley. But then he gets the pads on and you see the great Saquon Barkley.
Right. And they don't do anything in practice that would really show you that. Maybe he bursts through the line of scrimmage or something. But, he's not hurdling anybody backwards in practice. I can assure you.
No, he is not.
Yeah, no doubt. Les, we'll get into some of the the specifics of the questions, but I do want to ask you from a macro. We haven't talked to you in a little bit. Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. They've had a lot of turnover on the roster. Where are you right now on where they are, what Howie's done so far this offseason, and just if you believe they're still a team that's built to potentially have a shot at repeating the losses on defense, the changes on offense. Just what do you think so far of what they've done here in the offseason?
Well, I think they've had a good offseason. It's the realities of the cap and so forth, and the incredible luck they had last year putting together the roster. I mean, it was skill, but it was also luck. I mean, nobody knew Zach Bond was going to play like this. They're not going to be as nobody. That was one of the best teams we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what they did in the NFC Championship game and what they did in the Super Bowl, that might be one of the top 5, 6 NFL teams of all time. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. It was an incredibly dominant team. I mean, you just saw this week, they traded away a guy there was a huge offseason acquisition for them last year who never really played much and was inactive for the Super Bowl. And I think Dave Murphy did a good job writing about this in the Inquirer. It's just amazing that they won the Super Bowl having made a horrible mistake in
I
free
know. I
agency.
know. It is. It is amazing, Les.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I guess what I'm saying, I'm taking a long way to get to my point, but they're not going to be that dominant this year, but they're still very, very, very good. They have a very tough schedule. I think I saw it ranked fourth in the NFL, which, you expect that when you win the Super Bowl. Um, they can certainly contend for another Super Bowl. I do think, I do think about, though, the fact that we've seen post Super Bowl years before win and lose. I think there have been four of them for the Eagles up to now. Has any of those seasons turned out really great? No, not a
Yeah,
single
that's
one.
true. That's true. But
uh,
this group is more talented, I
I
think.
know,
They're
yes,
better
and I
equipped.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree, but it's worth keeping that in mind.
Yes.
It
Yes.
just, I mean, a million things can happen. You could, by the end of October, Jalen Hurts could be out for the year, God forbid, and Saquon Barkley, and
Yeah.
the whole, I mean, things have a way of catching up with you in sports, but maybe not. Maybe they just, maybe we're seeing something we've never seen here before,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting to think about. But yeah, I think you talked about personnel differences, mostly almost all on defense. I mean. I guess they'll have about five new defensive starters, and we'll have to see how that goes. I don't think they're in a terrible spot with any of those changes. I'd still like to see them have another edge rusher, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, I'm with
Um,
you. I find it
offense,
hard to believe this team will go into the season without doing something at edge rusher, but maybe it's as simple
yeah,
as, and we're going to get to talk to Big today for the first time about all these changes. But I guess just to wrap up the Huff thing,
hmm
number one, I don't know if you got this on your social media, but I got this. Everybody's trying to hand Howie his flowers. This is not the one. Howie's a great general manager, but this is not the one where you should be saying, "Oh, great move." Like, no, he admitted a mistake and he made the best of it that he could. But
and
essentially,
a
as
lot
I
of
look
dead
at it,
money is
yeah,
still out of this. Yeah,
he spent $26 million for 300 whatever snaps of Bryce Huff,
yeah,
and they're paying $9 million so he can play for San Francisco, an
yeah.
NFC team.
And it
That's not a
wouldn't it be
positive.
horribly ironic if Bryce Huff plays well for San Francisco?
Yeah. So, but he did a great job overall, but nobody's perfect. And
Right.
and I do like the ability to admit a mistake and move on. But boy, that edge group looks light, and not only literally because it's a bunch of undersized guys, but from a depth standpoint, even Nolan Smith. I
Yeah.
mean, it's he had a great final 10 games of the season. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a large sample size.
No,
Jalen Hunt,
We're really
yeah,
projecting on that, and that he can stay healthy and all that stuff. Like you said, he's a very light guy for his
yeah.
position, and yeah, there's a yeah, but overall, it's a tremendous team. It'll be tougher. I mean, I think the division is pretty good, with the exception of the Giants, and it's we'll have to see how it all shakes out. There's a lot of quirks with the schedule, but I think the bye is in a good spot, and you go from there.
I think the bye was in a bad spot last year,
Yeah,
Les,
it
and that
was.
proves,
Yeah,
when you're really good, nothing matters.
yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
matters. Doesn't matter if you're home, road
Right,
trip, early bye. You just beat everybody. You beat everybody, and that was, as
right.
you mentioned, and I agree. You're not using hyperbole at all to say that that was one of the best teams of the modern era ever. I don't like to compare like with the 72 Dolphins because they're playing a different game. There's been so
Right.
many
Yeah,
changes.
yeah.
So I kind of look at it, and this is one of the best modern era teams, free agency era teams ever. I agree with that wholeheartedly. One aspect that I also think people don't take into account is career years. Like Saquon Barkley's still going to be great, but is he going to have
Right.
2,505 yards?
Yeah. Well, the history of 2,000-yard runners the next year is not good, much like the history of Eagles teams after going to the Super Bowl is not good. But, he's healthy and he's young, and he's got that great offensive line in front of him, so we'll see. But teams are going to really be on that. You saw the Super Bowl where the Kansas City, all the announcers, all Burkhardt and Brady wanted to talk about was what a wonderful job Kansas City was doing in shutting down Saquon Barkley while the
Yeah.
score mounted
Yeah.
higher and higher.
Well, I think, I'm surprised Tom didn't explain, like, when you use that much to stop one play, it
Right.
opens up everything else.
Yes.
Yeah. And Saquon still had a huge impact on that
Yeah.
game just because they
Right.
spent every available option trying to stop him. And
Yeah, I
that made
think
it
I think
easier
the
for everybody
announcers
else.
in that game were sort of, I think in both of the Super Bowls the Eagles have won, we've had this phenomenon where the announcers expected to be doing one thing and they ended up doing something else. In Super Bowl 52, I think Michaels and Collinsworth expected to be uh, giving the Patriots their flowers and the greatness of Tom Brady and so on and so forth. That was their mindset going into that game, and they didn't adjust very well. Collinsworth wanting to take away all the Eagles' touchdown catches, and Michael's not being sure that the game was over when the game ended. They kind of weren't prepared for what the Eagles did.
Yeah. Well, you
Uh,
could have still said about Tom Brady because he had 505
oh yeah,
passing yards.
absolutely. That'll never happen again.
I
505
still,
passing yards and lose. But and then the same thing happened this time. They were there to anoint the Chiefs for their three-peat, and the greatness of the Chiefs and so on and so forth.
yeah,
And it went the other way, and they really didn't. I rewatched that broadcast, they really didn't. They weren't, even when it was once. I know announcers aren't supposed to say, "Wow, this is a blowout. This
yeah,
game's over."
trying to
But
keep
they
the
kind of
audience.
never did. They were just they wouldn't. They kept talking about what the Chiefs needed to do, and it was an interesting exercise, but probably a little bit unfulfilling for Eagles fans.
What do you think this year's calling for Jalen Hurts to be, Les? I mean, I think each iteration of the last 4 years has kind of required him to be a different version
Hmm.
of himself, all within maybe the same offense, but a different version of himself. What do you think the 2026 or 2025, excuse me, Philadelphia Eagles will require Jalen Hurts to be this year?
Boy, that's really interesting, Xander. What we were just talking about, I don't think they'll be able to run as much and as effectively as they did last season. I think teams will really focus on that. And he's going to have to be more like the Hurts of the Super Bowl and hit, a dagger and really, his passing stats last year, they were efficient, but they weren't prolific at all. And hey, he has the tools to be prolific. I think they're going to have to be a little more of a passing team, maybe not dramatically so, but I want to see what he's like. I think a lot of pressure is off him. I mean, he's won the Super Bowl. He's been the Super Bowl MVP. And I don't think we've ever had a quarterback. Nick Foles, it was a strange situation. He
Yeah.
did those things, but he wasn't really the starting quarterback
Yeah,
when he
not very
returned.
different. Yeah, very different
Uh,
circumstance.
we've never seen this in Philadelphia. And I think maybe Hurts goes into this in a situation where a bad week or a week where, you know, he misses some throws isn't like you don't spend the next week, oh my God, do the Eagles have the quarterback they need to win the Super Bowl? Yeah, they
Well,
do.
you'll still get
Uh,
that. I'm pretty confident, Les. The
maybe, but
Dan
does it
Orlovskis of the
land the
world.
same way? Does it
Yeah.
land the same way after he has won the Super Bowl? Um, you know, I, I think he can loosen up a little. I think he can be a little more himself this year, to me anyway. But yeah, I'm interested to see what it means for him as a player. If it means he can play with a little more abandon, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen a quarterback that could go from being described as top 5 in one season to be bottom 5 in the same season. It's such a for some of these, and I think most of it is gaslighting people and grifting people,
Yeah.
because it gets attention. And one week you got these guys saying, "Oh, he's terrible," and the next week he's great.
Hmm.
So at some point, I'm like, well, pay attention to who you're listening to, and if they do that, maybe don't hold their opinion up in such high regard. That's
Right.
my personal opinion, but
Oh, I agree totally on that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but for Jalen, I think he's proved. I mean, the guy's just good.
Hmm.
However you want to describe it, he wins. He finds a way to. One of the best things I always say about Jalen Hurts, and you've been around this even longer than me, Les. You've seen a lot of quarterbacks. When they have a bad game, they have a bad game. It's sort of like
Yep.
a starting pitcher. They don't have
Yeah.
their best stuff. Jalen Hurts can play poorly in the first quarter, in the second quarter, even the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, he's making a play to beat you.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never seen that.
He's a
To where,
mentally tough guy. There
yeah,
is no doubt about that. Nobody's ever going to say that he's soft or,
yeah,
anything like that. That's very true, John. He does. He isn't the. I get frustrated. I think everybody who watches him gets frustrated from time to time because you'd love to see him have the vision and the overall mastery of the position that Manning or somebody like that has, but that's not really him. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. He moves the ball down the field, and he does what he has to do to win. And if that requires him to hurl himself into the line, with abandon, he does that on occasion. And he's a great leader, and I think that's a big part of their success is who he is off the field. And yeah, so I think
yeah,
they're in good
yeah.
hands there.
Do you think that bothers the owner or the GM at all? I mean, they are paying $60 million a year to wide receivers.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have to
Yeah,
do that if you're not going to use them all that much. But kind of the
yeah,
nature of the team. What do you think they think about that? Or maybe it's just all positive. We keep winning. Maybe
yeah.
they don't care.
I think as long as you win the Super Bowl, it's fine. But yeah, there would
yeah.
be if they were falling short with these weapons, it would be a problem. There's no doubt about it. But
I
they
would
didn't.
say, Les, if they lost that Rams game and they were really close to losing
Yeah,
that this
good point.
offseason would have been uh,
Oh God,
a
yeah,
dumpster fire. A
yeah,
dumpster fire.
yeah.
That's how
Yeah, you're
quickly things.
exactly right. They
Yeah.
screwed around there. They were the better team,
Oh
but they
yeah.
screwed around and got the Rams back in the game and were one Matthew Stafford miraculous play away from being in a real
Wasn't
problem.
even miraculous. And that first Jalen Carter saved the season.
Yeah, he
On
did.
that first
Yeah,
Jalen Carter, he had back-to-back rushes, but the first one, I forget the defender who slipped, but it was snowing. He slipped. Tyler Higbee was wide open.
yeah,
If Jalen Carter doesn't get
yeah.
there, that is an easy. He might have got pulled down at the 1 or 2 yard line, but it probably a touchdown.
Right.
And boy, how things would have changed. So Jalen
Really
Carter
true.
deserves a lot of credit for that season as well. But to go to Vic, because it's a big day, Vic Fangio is going to talk today, and
Yes.
he's the one with all the moving parts. Did they? And in my estimation, best defensive coordinator in football. He proved himself. Do they count too much on Vic? It's like Vic will figure it out
Hmm.
type of thing versus they pay everybody on offense.
I've heard that said about Stoutland before that they pay too
Yeah.
much. Uh, they spend too much time thinking Stoutland will make some fifth round guy, or fans do anyway,
Yeah.
a great player. As far as Vic, I don't know. I tend to think that they make moves that Vic approves of, that Vic wants. I don't know how he felt about CJ Gardner Johnson, but I don't think they've done. For instance, the Huff thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Howie was still talking last time he spoke
Yeah, he
as
was like
if,
he's stubborn. He wanted to give him another
yeah,
chance. Yeah.
as
Yeah.
if he could do something with the guy. And I think Vic just told, no, this guy's not. I'm not putting him on the field. Um, it's and I think that's why Huff is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of think Vic's in charge there, but that's just my. I'm not on the inside of that,
Yeah.
obviously,
No, I
but
think you're
that's the
right. I
sense I
think you're
get
right.
is that
Yeah.
it's Vic's deal and money wise, I think it was. I don't think in this offseason it was that strategic that the changes were all on defense and not on offense. It was a matter of whose contract was up and what they had to do with the money they had left. And I think they would have liked to have kept a few of those guys, but that was kind of the way it was all set up, going into the off season. There wasn't any way to get Milt Williams back here. I
Yeah.
mean, you just couldn't
Yeah.
spend that money for Milton Williams, even though I think they would have loved to. Sweat, I don't know. I don't know if they would have paid Josh Sweat. I mean, great playoff run, but good career. Will the team that signed him really be that ecstatic about Josh Sweat this time next year? I don't know. You know, um, but I do think they listen to Vic a lot. And yeah, I'm really. If you guys ask him about Huff today, I'm really. Maybe he
Oh
won't.
yeah. That's
He's
gonna be
pretty
asked.
smart. He's not going to
No.
rip the guy or
No.
anything. But I do think that's Vic saying, "Nah, get that out of here. I don't want that."
I do
Yeah.
think it's interesting how you point out like Vic has more say with Howie than maybe any other coach in the building. Maybe Stoutland, you could say, on the offensive line, but I don't think
Yeah,
Nick Sirianni has the ability to say to Howie, "Hey, I like this guy." You know what I mean? I mean,
yeah,
even this year's first round pick last, which is my next question about the rookies. They took a first round pick on a joker type of player who's kind of a positionless player. Now, he wasn't positionless at college, but projected to be a little bit of that player. I think it's interesting that they went there. What kind of impact do you think the rookies need to have on this team this year? I mean, you had a lot of success from rookies last year. That was more the exception than the rule.
yeah.
I think they're going to need some impact from these rookies upcoming. What do you see in this rookie class?
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's a good question. They were very fortunate last year. I didn't foresee. I kind of thought Isaiah Rogers would start over Quinyon Mitchell,
Mhm.
uh, just because in the old days, a rookie corner that was even a great player. A rookie corner was problematic.
Yeah.
What Mitchell did was extraordinary. What DeJean did was extraordinary. I wasn't really expecting anything along those lines from either of those guys. Um, so yeah, I think, and they're certainly expecting that again. They're expecting Jihad Campbell to get his shoulder right and make a contribution. I think N'Kobe Dean isn't going to be. I know I keep reading all these. Oh, he might be ahead of schedule. That's a patellar tendon that was injured at the very end of the season. That's I maybe my medical knowledge is out of date, but to me that's mid-season for me. So I think they do need Jihad Campbell. I think they need the safety they drafted in the second round to really step up. I don't think Sidney Brown has showed me or Vic Fangio that he's a starting safety in the NFL that you can really depend on. He can run around and hit people, but outside of that, so yeah, I think there's at least two guys that are going to have to. It better look pretty darn good coming out of this rookie class, and it's a lot to expect on a year-to-year basis, and it's if it continues and it works, it's a tremendous testament to their position coaches and the coaching overall that they get this level of play from these guys.
Cooper DeJean is another one of those guys who excelled as a rookie. I want to talk about Cooper with you, Les, from the business of football aspect. And this was highlighted by the Houston Texans, who in the same week made Derek Stingley the top paid outside corner in football history, and Jalen Petrie the top paid nickelback in NFL history, since passed, but at the time. And the difference was about $50 million. Stingley got about $50 million more dollars. Cooper DeJean, it's great. He's great in the slot, but I think the business of football demands he's got to move outside at some point to maximize his earning power. Is there any way around that?
I don't know. I hope there is, because I think he had such an incredible impact in the slot. And I think the way the game is played now, I don't think the salary thing matches the reality. I think he was as involved as an outside corner. He made more plays than Slay made. I think, but you're right. We went through this years ago with Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Lane was drafted to eventually be Jason Peters' successor at left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know that Jason was going to play forever. And it was a big thing for Lane's first couple contracts. His agent was there was a little concern about that, because right tackles in those days did not get paid what left tackles got paid. And the Eagles kind of had to make that leap to say, okay, he's the greatest right tackle, so what the hell, And he stayed at right tackle. He's going to play his whole career at right tackle and be very, very well compensated for that.
Yeah.
Maybe a reckoning like that is coming for slot corner. I don't know. But do you think it's less important, really, than an outside corner in the game that we're seeing played in the NFL today, with the tight ends and everything that and the emphasis again on running, where a corner that can come down in the box and make a tackle like DeJean can, screen passes. I
think it shows up. I think it shows up when you have a really good slot corner, and there aren't a lot of really good slot corners. But yeah, the thought process is, the AJ Browns of the world, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, they're going to line up outside way more than they are inside, and Jamar Chase in that category as well. And that's the theory, but you're right. I mean, CeeDee Lamb goes inside a lot.
Yeah, I also think, though, too, the business of the NFL, like Les, I think you bring up a good point, but aren't they going to use that against him in his agent and contract talk? I mean, hey, man, you're a slot corner.
Well, that's the problem.
We're not giving you $100 million, even if you might be more valuable.
Done it that way. But I think Howie's smarter than that. I mean, this guy is really important to your team. I don't think
I agree.
You make it, what the importance to you is, and I don't think you want to pretend it's otherwise, just to make a few. The locker room is very important, and you don't want people in your locker room feeling they've been gypped or that they didn't get what they deserve, within reason. I mean, everybody can't be the highest paid everything, but you don't want key contributors being severely underpaid. That doesn't work in a team sport. Even if it works for you in your cap, it doesn't work on the field and in the locker room. So, and I think that's a big difference between, frankly, Joe and Howie. Is that Joe kind of wanted to win at the negotiating table more. Howie kind of wants to win on the field.
Yeah.
But and I put that a little too broadly. Joe's going to be mad if he ever sees this. But,
he probably
gets
will
mad
too.
at me a lot. But you know what I mean.
Yeah. At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on the X platform. Follow him at PHLY_sports, doing a great job for those guys. Still writing about the Eagles, so you can check him out there. The last OTA, I get, it's hard to complain, but you get 10 OTAs. The Eagles are using 6. You can have a 3-day mini camp. Eagles are using one. Is there any way you can poke holes in that after the success they had? But other teams are out there preparing and using 10 OTAs. And
well, the problem there is you played into the middle of February. I mean,
yeah,
you just can't. You're going to have more injuries if you do it another way. I mean, yes, you might be better prepared. Yes, the rookies might be in a better shape to contribute early in the season, but you can only do so much physically with these guys. And, they put a lot of the Eagles study this stuff a lot. I think
yeah.
I trust them on this matter.
Well, fair enough.
Fair enough. Great stuff, Les Bowen. We appreciate you joining in, man. We always love talking to you here on Birds 365. As John mentioned, make sure you guys follow Les on Twitter at Les Bowen. Les, thanks for doing it today, man. We'll talk to you again soon down the line. We appreciate your contribution to the show today.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Thanks, bud.
There's Les Bowen joining us here on Birds 365. Great show there. Great segment with the great Les Bowen. Make sure you guys follow him and read all his work at PHLY. Does a great job. John, some interesting insight there from Les. And interesting, I always appreciate Les's thought process on things just because it forces me to think outside the box a little bit. I like the way he thinks about things when it comes to the team, the game, the business, and the approach.
Yeah, I mean, Les brought up a good point with Lane. He's one of the guys. He's exactly right. I mean, at one point, left tackles got paid a heck of a lot more than right tackles. And one day, everybody woke up and said, hey, there's a bunch of good pass rushers on the other side as well. And right tackles are important as well. Now, left tackles still get a little bit more, but that sort of huge disparity has gone down. Maybe the same thing happens, and maybe Cooper DeJean is one of the players that changes that. But boy, it's the problem is the disparity is so huge right now, and it's hard to imagine it closing to the point to where the Eagles go, all right, we're going to pay $90 million to a slot corner versus the 45 or whatever Kyler Gordon got. I don't know. It's a tough one.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about this in the chat too. I think people are bringing up some good points. I mean, our guy in here, what's his name, Dominique Dabney, who I always appreciate, who has some good comments. He said today, this is simple. I mean, if Cooper DeJean's the best slot cornerback in football, then guess where he's going to be playing. But my contention to that would be
But it's not simple.
It's not, right, because Cooper DeJean is going to want to earn more money.
Yeah.
He's going to want to maximize his value. And then for the people saying, he already said he wants to help the team the most. He's not going to want a $50 million haircut, guys. He's not. It's going to create some friction. That doesn't mean he's right, but I think it's going to create friction.
Well, he is right. I mean, he's right on both instances. He's very smart and he's very savvy to speak about team first, but behind the scenes, he's got an agent, and his agent will work for him to make the most money possible. I realize to a fan, they don't care for the most part about the business aspect, but it's real. It exists. And that's why you have people like Vic Fangio intimating himself, well, I'd like to keep him in the slot, but we'll see.
Right.
Because there's other aspects to it. So you can put your head in the sand and pretend they don't exist. But yeah, the disparity is stark. 90 million to 45 million. Anybody happy to have the option of 90 million and take the 45 million? Do it in a more everyday scenario. You get a $90,000 salary or a $45,000 salary. What do you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Now, I do wonder if there is some nuance in terms of the way Jeffrey and Howie operate. Like, I do believe they would try and make it right with that player, but there is a limit on where they'd go, especially if he's in that box of the slot corner. Now, I don't know where that would be, but I have a hard time believing give him whatever the slot gets because that's where he played. Like, I think he knows his value to the team, but where do you go? Where does that take you? That's my question on it.
And by the way, I think it's all going to work out because I think ultimately he's going to move outside. He's going to be really good outside, and everything's going to be fine. But it is and they got 2 years to figure it out, and they could probably buy 1 more year of playing him inside. But if Makuba steps up and he can do it, and Cooper's better than Kaylee Ringo or Adoree Jackson on the outside, which he probably will be. Hey, Sidney Brown's got to work out at safety, but it'll work itself out. But to Les's point, Howie's savvier than Joe. Sorry, Joe. Joe, it would have been no doubt about it. He's going to take advantage of the situation to try to limit the salary. Howie's a little bit more political in that matter. But again, that disparity is just too big. And not to say, I mean, Derek Stingley's number 1. So, you got to be in a position to be the number 1 paid outside corner. So, but the fact that Houston did it in 1 week and made one of their corners the top paid outside corner and one of their defensive backs the top paid nickelback in the same week, and you saw the difference in money. Yeah, that's real, guys. Sorry, that's real.
No, it is. No doubt about it. I do think I'm curious to see how that shakes out. I'm one of the people that thinks Cooper DeJean is going to be an unbelievable outside corner. I understand people in the chat who say, well, we don't know how good he's going to be out there. They're completely different positions. I understand that. You're right. We haven't seen it at the NFL level, but my projection is that he's going to be damn good out there. We will see if I'm right.
Saw it at the college level. That's how the Eagles scouted him, as an outside corner.
Yeah, but I mean, people could say, yeah, well, you see, you scout tackles in college, or you project at guard, you know what I mean? So I think there's some nuance there.
Well, college, but this is a good player. This is a damn good player. The point is you're projecting him inside was the projection. He played outside at Iowa, 90+% of the snaps. I think people don't realize that. He played way, way, way more outside than anywhere else at Iowa. So the projection was inside.
All right. We'll see what ends up happening with Cooper DeJean. I do think it's a good conversation. I think Cooper DeJean will be here for a long time. So I'm not really worried about it from that perspective, but I am interested to see how it shakes out. Johnny Mac, minute left here on the show today. You're heading down to the NovaCare Complex. Get us fired up, John. I know you're oozing with excitement to get down to the NovaCare Complex today.
Yeah, Les explained it well. Yeah, Les took some of the heat off me. Yeah, it's not as exciting, but hey, it's football.
Yeah.
Somewhat
similar. Cowboy yesterday in the afternoon. He kind of said the same thing. He's like, I mean, I like going and all, but I mean, get down there, you realize you're not really seeing a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah. And Les is right from the perspective of, it's about the rookie. It's not meaningful at all for the entrenched players. I mean, literally not at all. Those guys are not getting much out of it other than helping the younger players. It's about the younger players and getting them up to speed so that when training camp starts, they have as much knowledge as they possibly can in the bank.
That's actually exactly what Gary said. He said, I try and look and see, who's picking up things quicker than others and who's slower to pick things up. And that might have an impact on whether they're ready to go in the season. I thought that was interesting. Johnny Mac, your final thoughts on this Tuesday edition of the show. I thought Les was awesome today. I thought our open was awesome. I thought our offensive discussion was great, despite people getting they
always get upset about.
I do think it's a good conversation. I thought we hit on a lot of good things with it. Your final thoughts on today's Tuesday edition?
Vic Fangio Day. Excited to talk to Vic. Vic's always honest and blunt, and I think he will be today as well.
All right, you get first question for Vic Fangio. What are you asking?
What went wrong with Bryce Huff?
There you go. One super chat.